अच्छा सुनो, I will now introduce Shri Atul Bagai.
Distinguished panelists,
members
of CAP, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Uma Srivastava. I am a member of Foundation for Campaign Against Plastic Pollution, known as CAP in short. On behalf of CAP and on my personal behalf, I welcome you all to this webinar on benefits and application of bioplastics.
We all know plastic pollution is a mammoth problem and
we all know plastic
environmental
pollution is
challenges.
one of the greatest
There is
environmental
around 8
challenges.
billion tons
There is around 8
litter
billion
in
tons of
landfills,
plastic litter in
unregulated
landfills,
dumps,
unregulated
and the
dumps, and the environment.
The bulk of which is contaminated.
There's a lot of echo.
Two systems are on. That's what maybe there is a cross echo.
Okay. I'll just check.
Okay.
Is it okay? I'll just continue. In case you find it difficult, please let me know if I'm audible or not. We are still adding more than 8 million tons of plastic litter every year to our oceans, and it doesn't seem to abate. The situation is, to say the least, overwhelmingly alarming. As we know, plastic litter does not decompose easily, and it takes hundreds of years to decompose. However, it disintegrates into small particles called microplastics, which finds its way into our water, food, and even air. So effectively, we may be drinking plastic, eating plastic, as well as breathing plastic. We have to stop plastic pollution without any further delay, as the situation is really very bad. In recent years, in an effort to reduce plastic pollution, many governments have banned conventional plastic bags, allowing only the use and production of biodegradable bags. However, there are issues with the so-called biodegradable bags too. The UNEP, in its report, Single-Use Plastics, a Roadmap for Sustainability, has stated that to limit leakage and damage to the environment, the presence of sound waste management systems is as relevant for the so-called biodegradable options as for the fossil fuel-based plastics. It further states that often biodegradable plastic items, including single-use plastic bags and containers, break down completely only if exposed to prolonged high temperatures, above 50 degrees centigrade. Such conditions are met only in incineration plants, but very rarely in the environment. Therefore, even bioplastics derived from renewable sources such as cornstarch, cassava roots, or sugarcane, or from bacterial fermentation of sugar or lipids, do not automatically degrade in the environment, and especially not in the ocean. Often terms like bioplastics and biodegradable plastics are used interchangeably, creating some confusion in the minds of common public. The aim of today's webinar is to learn from expert speakers as to what are bioplastics, the various terminologies used, and their nuances, whether there is any classification of bioplastics, what are their merits and demerits, what are their applications and limitations, and how their waste has to be managed and processed, which will cause least damage to the environment. This is the 10th webinar in the series of webinars that CAP has conducted with a view to create awareness about various issues related to the plastic pollution and to evolve practical solutions to mitigate and gradually eliminate the scourge from our beautiful planet. For your information, CAP is an NGO whose mission is to significantly reduce plastic pollution in the environment through creation of awareness about the harms of plastic usage and pollution, and to educate people at large about the safe disposal of plastic waste. With these words, I extend a hearty welcome to Shri Atul Bagai, Head of UNEP India Office, Dr. Sangeeta Kasture, Scientist, Department of Biotechnology, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Jain, DST's Expert Advisory Committee, and technical expert, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and Professor Rajeshwar, Chief Scientist and Head, Food Packaging Technology, CSIR, Central Food Technological Research Institute, who have spared their valuable time and made it convenient to participate in this webinar as panelists. I also welcome members of the CAP present and all other attendees to this webinar. I hope the inquisitiveness during the question answer session will make the webinar all the more interesting. Now, I seek your attention just to the following points. I will request all of you to keep yourself in the mute mode throughout the webinar and questions in the chat box. Please also mention the name of the panelist you wish to respond to your question. Also write your name. You may write your question at any time, but these will be taken up at 5:35 p.m. We will be requesting you for your feedback for the webinar. After the conclusion of the webinar, an evaluation form will appear on your screen. Please take a minute or two to fill up the form. The information shared by you will be kept confidential. I will now introduce Shri Atul Bagai. A former career civil servant, Shri Atul Bagai is the country head for United Nations Environment Programs UNEP India office. UNEP is UN's leading global environmental body that sets the global environmental agenda. After UNEP established its footprint in India in 2016, Shri Bagai has decisively led from the front to fulfill its mandate across climate change, chemicals, waste and air quality, environmental governance, resource efficiency, environment under review, healthy and productive ecosystems, and resilience to disasters and conflicts. He successfully organized the biggest ever World Environment Day celebrations in 2018 with commitment to end single-use plastic in India by 2022. As a UN veteran, he has spent over 2 decades spearheading challenging assignments in regions across South and Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands. I now call upon Shri Atul Bagai to share his thoughts and inaugurate the webinar. Shri Atul Bagai, you may please unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. And I would particularly like to thank Anup ji and his team of CAP for inviting me for this very important topic you've chosen today on biodegradable plastic. And this becomes even more significant from the background of what was told in the introduction in terms of quantum of plastic that we are letting out into our marine systems and our ecosystems. I was very happy to also learn that already about 11 webinars, such webinars have been organized on a variety of topics in relation to plastic pollution. And as is becoming very clear that the whole world is now facing what we call, and what the United Nations Secretary General said, is the triple planetary crisis. This is the crisis of climate change, the crisis of nature, and the crisis of pollution. Last few decades, we were all talking about climate change only. And that was the biggest and remains one of the biggest challenges this whole world is facing. But in the last few years, we've started talking a lot about the planetary crisis on pollution and waste. And it's heartening to know that the civil society is looking at this whole aspect in terms of not only raising awareness, but also bringing together science on these very important issues. And some of the figures quoted in the introduction are astounding in terms of the kind of plastic litter that we are sending out to the land, to the water, to air. And of course, the marine pollution is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing. coming from a global perspective, if we're talking of what's happening in our country, in India, even there, the figures are really mind-boggling. India generates almost 55 metric tons per year of urban municipal solid waste, and of which only 37% is treated. So you're actually looking at 63% of such solid waste going out into the atmosphere, into the marine ecosystems, into the riverine ecosystems. And plastic waste generation is also of quite a huge amount. And even though the per capita consumption of India is very low, 11 kilograms compared to average global 28 kilograms, India remains the 12th highest contributor to mismanaged plastic waste. And it's projected to become the 5th largest by 2025. UNEP has been recently doing some work on River Ganga in terms of plastic waste, and Ganges is almost among the 10 river systems which carry huge quantities of plastic to the ocean. So I think the response to tackling the issue of marine plastics and microplastics in the ocean has largely been focused around the leakage points in the current plastic waste economy. And that's something that UNEP is also trying to look at in a few cities on the Gangetic Basin, in Haridwar, in Patna, in Allahabad, and also in the Yamuna Basin in Agra. And we would be very happy to share by early next year some of the findings of some of these scientific studies that we're doing in these 4 cities, and also especially focused around microplastics. I think today's seminar becomes more important because very limited attention has been paid to the potential of reducing the risk, reducing the use of plastics altogether by exploring wider adoption of alternative materials. And alternative naturally available materials are becoming by far the more important alternatives, where the focus of today's seminar brings into great importance what these alternatives could be, and what could they be replacing in our plastic economy. And not only replacing, but what are the, as the introductory remarks mentioned, what are the challenges associated with this? What are the issues related to this? All these things, of course, need to be looked at. But I think bioplastics are a large family of different materials and are not just one single substance. And I am not going to get into the technicalities of this, but there are many applications for which these plastics could provide an essential role. And as an alternative material, bioplastics are widely explored options. There's no doubt about it. According to European Bioplastics, the global production of bioplastics has been more than 6 million tons in 2019. And some industry estimates suggest that the India's bioplastics market is projected to grow at a CAGR of almost 25% to reach 755 million US dollars by 2025. So the market is going to be huge. There is a lot of demand of this, but we need to basically look at which part of bioplastics will be most useful. And this seminar is going to look into that. There are 3 main groups, but I think the seminar should be looking at which are the most environmentally friendly and which are the least damaging in terms of adoption as alternatives. I think usage and application and costs of bioplastics are the major factors which need consideration. And I'll be happy that if this webinar can address those issues, because under the present scenario, packaging is one of the major applications of bioplastics. And I'm very happy to note that some of the panelists are experts in the packaging industry. And the life cycle costs of bioplastics vis-a-vis conventional plastics will provide certainly an answer for how viable this alternative can be. And based on these issues and based on these costs, bioplastics can be commercially scaled up like the fossil fuel plastics. And in India, there are many companies producing bioplastics. Current R&D also focuses on replacing the fossil fuel based polymer production by biopolymer based polymer, and there are various examples on this. But one of the issues I think we should all consider is how bioplastics are defined globally and at the national and local level. And this standardization and labeling process is very, very important in terms of, based on these standardization labeling processes, it will be easy to then define at a national level what these bioplastics would be. There are various standards, and Indian standard specification for compostable plastics is one of those that are very, very important. But however, there is a need for broad coverage of products under the standardization of bioplastics. And from a perspective, this is a very, very important area that needs to be really looked at. Accordingly, a policy framework at a national level should be developed, since it has a potential to redefine and reshape the plastic industry. So from that perspective, I think today's webinar is very, very important, and these findings should certainly be shared with the key stakeholders, not only in the civil society, but I think with the government bodies also. I again thank CAP and Anoopji for inviting UNEP for this very important webinar, and I'm very happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shri Atul Bagaiji. Your points have been well noted, and definitely, as you said, standardization and labelization of bioplastics is very important, and subsequently a policy framework needs to be in place. I will now introduce Dr. Sangeeta Kasture, a scientist in the Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. Dr. Sangeeta is associated with Department of Biotechnology, Government of India since last 11 years. She has been promoting the innovations in bioenergy, environment biotechnology, and secondary agriculture, etc., through various research and development schemes of Government of India. Her dedicated approach has significantly contributed in accelerating innovations in clean energy sector in the country. Her vision and contributions have been significant in shaping up waste to energy and advanced biofuel R&D strategies. She is country focal point for multilateral programs like Mission Innovation and BioFuture platform related to clean energy innovation and for promoting biofuel deployment towards low carbon bioeconomy. I now request Dr. Sangeeta to kindly unmute and speak.
Thank you so much, Maji, for kind introduction, and good afternoon to everyone. And I thank CAP and the Anoopji Srivastavji for inviting Department of Biotechnology for this important webinar. And also there are eminent speakers, and though my background is little different because I have been focusing my areas in clean energy and mostly on the bioenergy. But however, recently I have been looking at the biodegradable plastics and how this microplastic management can be managed through biotechnological interventions. And for next 5 years, we have the strategy Department of Biotechnology has included to promote some of the R&D gaps, which are the gaps we need to address these gaps. So through committee, these are the recommendations how we can provide solutions to microplastic management and develop alternate to microplastics and those things. If it's okay, I can just quickly give a couple of slides, so I may be allowed to do that.
Yes, sure.
Yes, and because giving the background of the biotechnology, I have been representing Department of Biotechnology.
मैम आपका फ्रेम पे नहीं आ रहा है.
Is it visible?
Yeah. Yes, visible.
Yeah, thank you. So just to give background, the Department of Biotechnology functions under Ministry of Science and Technology and has been promoting research, innovation, and development demonstration in the life sciences areas, various areas like animal biotechnology, agriculture biotechnology, medical biotechnology, and the bioenergy that I have been given that charge. I am in charge of this promoting how the waste can be utilized to convert for example, agriculture residues and all to convert the value-added products and energy. So this is more in terms of science and technology and innovations in these areas. So under the value-added products, we're also considering how these biomass, waste biomass, that is, which is normally utilized for the biopower, are also we can hear about the burnt of these agriculture residues, like rice straw, wheat straw, how that can be utilized for converting into the bioplastics and many other value-added products. As Shri Atul Bagai has already covered entire landscape and area about the how this plastic pollution is the global issue and how this can be addressed. So very important is the creating awareness among the masses. That is one of the important aspect, and how we can reduce and discontinuation of single-use plastics through the behavioral changes. That is 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. These options are there. And I will be focusing on the technological interventions, how we can develop the affordable alternate products, that is bio-based plastics to replace the plastics, and what policy shift and what funding are required in order to promote this area, and how we can use these and deployable products market as easily as possible. Biodegradable plastic. So this is very important because there are a lot of 3 options are there. Some of the plastic that can also be recycled, where biodegradable plastics are required. This could be application where biodegradation is the best end of life option, because collection and recycling is not possible. So only those cases, those we need to identify, and those plastics we need to concentrate, focus, where we can have biodegradable option for this. But there are definitely several challenges. The alternate products are more expensive. That is poorly available. They are poorly available in market. Again, awareness about its presence in conventional products, for example, chewing gum and some of the wet wipes and all, they also did contain some of the plastics, which is in order to get the strength. But that is, many people are not aware that these contain plastic. And also there are certain challenges which are barriers for that current legislation and existing standards, which are also not allowing the biodegradable plastic to come into the market as fast as we are expecting. The areas of concern are microplastic, again, affect the ecological functioning of any biogenic habitat, showing impact on the ecosystem services. Then these microplastics also play a role in transporting pathogens through wastewater treatment plants by providing a buoyant surface for attachment. Hence, we need to take actions. First is limit the release of microplastic and microplastics associated pathogens mobility in environment. Then the other thing, best options are development of bio-based products as substitute to SUP, and promoting R&D for cost effective. That is very important. How we can develop the cost competitive products alternate to these fossil-based polymers. I don't want to go into the detail. There are different biodegradable plastics and what is current status and applications. So all our experts sitting here, I don't want to look at to the details, but this data is available and many laboratories are working in these areas in the laboratory at pilot scale, and we need to take these to the next level. So some of the institutes like IIT Guwahati, TERI, and these are been working in these areas. And there are possibilities for industrialization. As we said that there is a lot of potential in India for this biodegradable plastic market. So starch-based, many lactone-based and all these technologies are available. It's important that there are a lot of funding is required in order to take these R&D leads to the next level pilot scale. So, and in order to make this commercially viable. These are again some of the uses applications of the biodegradable plastic, biodegradable commodities and applications in various areas of biomedical, then filaments, cast film, and again, large scale resin development, 3D printing, etc. Again, TERI has developed some of the products, encapsulation of herbal oil using biodegradable, biocompatible plastics. These are again, herbal oil based encapsulation. So there are different applications, antimicrobial and activities, so that these have been, they can avoid the pathogenic bacterial growth and all those things. So there are number of applications you can use which are high value plastic can be developed using the bioresources. Now again, nanocomposites are again one of the examples where this can be a good potential for the growing the bioeconomy. The possible solutions are leads to deal with the possible alternatives and plastic, especially short-term usage. The technologies, further improvement, further technologies are required in terms of characterization, like morphological crystallization, mechanical, physical, antimicrobial activities, shelf life of vegetables, how we can increase the shelf life, etc., depending upon the applicables. And there are also super absorbent materials which are also being used. Those also need to be characterized in detail so that they can further develop, improve, and make it commercially viable. These are again just slides I'm showing. These have been developed by one of the center. DBT has supported 5 center of excellence in country, and TERI is one of the center where they are also producing the biopolymers using the microalgae and some of the other bio-based products. There are a couple of other institutes, they are also working using the cellulose and agriculture residues material for these things. So what is further R&D needed is for improvement in hydrophobicity, mechanical properties, cytotoxicity, that in vivo studies are required in this if there are applications in biomedical and other things. Then also we need to have industry engagement, because public-private partnership very key for in order to scale up these products, and most importantly to identify end users. So what are the end applications? Accordingly, the products can be developed and modified. The way forwards are we need to have develop eco-friendly material to replace single-use plastics. Then, for example, agriculture, biomass, cellulose products can be used as adhesive in plastic material preparation to increase biodegradability. And process technologies also need to be produced, and which are bacterial-based polymers. Also, there are ways to avoid conversion of plastics into microplastics. So those methods also need to be identified. That is also one of the way how we can avoid microplastic pollution, is to avoid conversion that. So some more research is also required in these areas. The feasibility of hybrid technologies, it is biotechnology alone cannot be cost effective. In that case, some of the technologies we need to have the combined technologies, both chemical as well as biotechnological hybrid technologies also we need to promote in these early areas. And to manage WWTPs to limit the release of microplastics and microplastics associated pathogens, mobility and environment. So these are the need for the need of, or we need to focus in these areas. And policy intervention, with respect to policy interventions, we know that there are standards available, both international as well as Indian standards. However, we need to align the Indian standards with the international standards so that there are no barriers, and these products which are available in some of the industries, they can really penetrate into market very easily. And also require standardization certification for some of the food-based applications. These are required. Recently, Niti Aayog has also come up with the policy. We are working on, interministerial committee are working on these areas, including the institutes which are engaged in development of standards, specifications, and they are working on these regulatory aspects. So from the perspective, the way forward to alternate plastic is the bio-based and biodegradable plastic ecosystem have to be established in India. We need to have significant financial outlet to be reserved to promote alternate plastic. There is a need to strengthen R&D centers on alternate plastics, and also to create new centers. There are a couple of centers, but those centers can also be strengthened. In addition to that, creating new centers dedicated only on biodegradable plastics or alternative plastics. And a national center on bioplastic translational research proposed for dissemination of technologies to the industries. And skill development is very important. So we need to have capacity building program in these areas to satisfy the need of industries and research. And again, consortia, that is the holistic development of alternate plastic. We need to have public-private partnership, and not only the national, but international collaboration is also very important in this area. So I would like to mention that DBT has been working on the mission innovation, where department has recently proposed the biorefinery mission, where we are trying to promote use of biomass, bio-based products, how we can replace the fossil-based products to bio-based products using different technologies. That approach has been, that mission has been launched during the side events of the COP26, where the bio-based plastics and chemicals would be one of the focus area, where we are working together with the Netherlands and other member countries of Mission Innovation. That's with this, I would pause here, and I would be happy to answer any questions. And thank you once again for CAP for the opportunity to speak about the initiatives from our Department of Biotechnology.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sangeeta. Your speech was very informative, and as you said, a lot of points have been taken in, and lot of funding is required for carrying forward the research and development activities, capacity building activities. It was really
sorry,
a
मैं interrupt
very
कर रहा हूँ.
informative speech.
मैम सॉरी मैं इंटरप्ट कर रहा हूँ. एक्चुअली मैम का नंबर मिल पाएगा क्या संगीता मैम का?
I would be happy to provide the thing. He has my number, and note down my office number is 011243654. This is available with the organizers. Yes.
2436 है मैम, प्लीज रिपीट. 0112436
5438.
5438. Okay, thank you मैम, thank you so much.
I will now use Dr. Rakesh Kumar Jain. Dr. Jain is DST's Expert Advisory Committee and Technical Expert, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. He holds Masters in Chemistry and PhD in Chemistry with specialization in pulp and paper. He has more than 35 years of experience in the areas of environment, energy and resource management, biotechnology and bioenergy related to paper, food processing, and allied industrial sectors. Earlier, he worked as Scientist G and Director, Central Pulp and Paper Research Institute till August 2016. He has widely traveled under various missions as a part of UNIDO, UNDP, GEF, and country programs to various countries across the globe. I now request Dr. Rakesh Kumar Jain to kindly unmute and speak.
Thank you, Dr. Uma, and good afternoon, dignitaries, friends, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on behalf of United Nations Industrial Development Organization, allow me to warmly thank the organizers, especially Mr. Anup Srivastav's team from the CAP, for giving me the privilege and opportunity to share my thoughts and views about this important topic, so-called the bioplastics and its benefits and application during this important webinar, I think, which is the need of an hour. I would also like to thank them for having brought together the esteemed and the renowned experts, technocrats, and the policymakers from various esteemed organizations, the institutions, and the government bodies to discuss and deliberate on this important topic, which is of great relevance in the light of this, the tremendous, and the lot of issues related to the plastic pollution, which has already been, told by the Mr. Bagai and Ms. Sangeeta Srivastav. So I'll just request you to share the screen and for one of my small presentation, how the biodegradable plastic, what could be the potential resources, for the raw materials Just अच्छा.
Please go to share screen option
Yeah, please.
and then you can share yours. It has been enabled.
Okay.
Yeah, it is now coming.
But I'm not able to see on my laptop. It is so. Yes, it is working, sir. Is it coming?
Yes, it is.
But I'm not able to see, ma'am, on my screen.
No, but what are you sharing? A PowerPoint presentation?
PowerPoint, yes, sir.
Maybe you have clicked another document,
Okay, okay, just
file. You
Yeah.
have to select the right one.
okay. Just yeah.
Yeah, now the PowerPoint presentation is coming and you can put it in the presentation mode.
Yes, sir.
At the bottom of your presentation, you will find a symbol presentation mode.
Yeah.
If you cannot, then you can proceed with this also. It's okay.
Okay, okay, fine. Fine. Sir. Yeah. Actually, just briefly about the United Nations Industrial Development Organization is the special agency of the United Nations promoting the industrial development for poverty reduction, inclusive globalization, and the environmental sustainability. And the UNIDO, through its International Center for Inclusive and Sustainable Industrial Development, which is supported by the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, now they call DPIIT, has been designed to foster a holistic approach to the interlinked development strategies and echoes the theme of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, aimed at promoting the introduction of the advanced manufacturing technologies to the manufacturing sector in India, strengthening the productivity and competitiveness of the small and medium enterprises through the technology-led interventions, identifying and transferring the best and proven technology-led solutions from India to the developed, particularly the least developed countries under the South-South Cooperation Framework, and serving as a model center for excellence, promoting the targeted intervention. Now coming to the topic, the biodegradable packaging as an emerging eco-friendly, the alternative. I think we all know, it is a buzzword we have been using, biodegradable plastic. And already a lot has been spoken about the environmental issues caused by the plastics. And it is one of the material which has been used, extensively for the packaging and pharma, food by the food industry, pharma, and many other industries, which is produced from the renewable resources, petroleum-based products, consequently, inducing the environmental issues, causing a lot of environmental problems. Now, in light of this, I think globally there is a trend to seek the alternative to the plastics, and government is banned. We need not to I'll not discuss much about that. Now, as an alternate to the plastic, lot of efforts have been done. What could be the alternate to the plastic for the packaging and food industry? Protective wraps, primary and secondary packaging. Now, being a person from the pulp and paper industry, this transition phase of plastic in India and global, this has been taken as an opportunity by the paper industry and the board industry to utilize this materials as a for raw material for packing in the carry bags, wrapping, protecting and packing and holding as a container for the food items. And this big opportunity for replacing the single-use plastic is mainly for the flexible paper packaging in bags and food disposable items. Now, if we compare the price of the plastic vis-a-vis paper and board, which is considered as a biodegradable material, and alternate to the bioplastics even, we see it has some of the challenges which are being now, improved by the various innovation and researches. The plastic is comparatively considered to be less in strength properties, but found to be cost effective. So the industry is looking for this alternative as a, to the biodegradable plastic, but at the same time trying to improve what are the bottlenecks with the paper and paperboard made from the renewable resources, how to improve upon the strength and the other properties, especially the barrier properties, which are one of the challenges when we are using the plastics or these biopolymer as a material for packaging of the liquid and food items. So now, lignocellulosic biomass is emerging as one of the sustainable source for the biodegradable packaging. And these are considered to be the cost effective, and lot of opportunities are existing, not only in India, globally, as we are blessed with the lignocellulosic biomass, which are available in enormous quantities. And this could be taken as the material for the production of the biopackaging materials, which could be used as a material for the production of the bioplastic, as well as the material for packaging after modifying with the use of certain additives, which could also partially replace the biodegradable plastic as one of the resource for packaging of the material. So presently, the biodegradable plastics are being produced from the first generation feedstock as a food material, like the grains, starches, and other materials. But just to have the competition with the food material, now the lignocellulosic biomass has been emerging as a renewable resource for the production of the biodegradable packaging material, bioplastic, as well as the paper and board, which after improving certain properties could be utilized as a source of biomaterials for packaging of the food or other items. Like if we look at the availability of the biomass, especially in context to India only, I think we have plenty of biomass available, which could be to the tune of 500 million tons in the form of bagasse pith, rice straw, paddy straw, coir, and other, the forest-based residues, which could become a resource material for the production of biodegradable plastic as well as biodegradable packaging material intended for the use of food material and other pharma products. So if we look at the composition of this biomass, which make it amenable for the use of the production of bioplastics and packaging material, it consists of the three major components, which is the cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. All are these biopolymers, which could be utilized as a source of biopolymer for the production of many kind of polymer intended for the use of the bioplastic as well as the biopolymers. Now, what is needed basically to transform these lignocellulose biomass into the useful bioplastic or biomaterials? It is the biorefinery concept, which basically has been emerging and globally accepted. The biorefinery concept basically includes the biorefining of this, the components in the form of lignin, cellulose, and the hemicellulose, just like the petroleum, the concept is almost similar. What the biorefinery concept is for the petroleum products. Similarly, the same concept could be applied to the lignocellulosic biomass, wherein it is possible to fractionate these biomass in the three major components, which could become a source of biomaterials intended to be used for the packaging materials. And the UNIDO is also working on the development of this, the packaging material through adopting a biorefinery approach. Basically, the UNIDO's approach for the conversion of this lignocellulosic biomass is the fractionation of these three components intended to be converted into cellulose, which could be utilized and converted into paper pulp and can be used for the food packaging. And after developing certain barrier properties into that, also as a source of biofuel, which could again be a resource for the production of bioplastic in the form of polyethylene as a replacement of the petrol-based products. Also the cellulose, which is derived from this lignocellulosic biomass, could be converted into the nanomaterials, nanocellulose, which could be a wonderful raw material for the to be used as a coating of the paper and boards to develop all those properties which are needed, which are intended to be used for the packaging of the liquid foods. And also the other component, which is a polyphenolic component, that is lignin, could also be a source of the thermoset resin, as a replacement of the phenol, which is a petrol-based product for production of phenol formaldehyde resins and PU resins. So I think this bioresource could be a wonderful source for the production of the biodegradable packaging material, whether you call it the bioplastic packaging of board, paper, which could be used as a replacement of the single-use plastic for the carry bags and many other applications. So if you look at the fractionation biorefinery approach to be, to be applied on the lignocellulosic biomass, I think these are the three components which could be utilized, for the production of hemicellulose, lignin, and the cellulose. The hemicellulose and lignin could be converted into the bioplastic, biopolymer, the so-called the polylactic acid polymer, polyhydroxyalkanoates, PFA, and also the ethanol and butanol, which could be also be converted into biofuel. And cellulose, the other major components, is with almost 40% of the biomass, could be converted into bioplastics, PLA, PHA, as well as the nanomaterials, nanocellulose, which could be used as a coating material for the paper and board. And also this cellulose could be converted, which is already in use for the production of paper and board, which is being used as a replacement of single-use plastics. And the lignin coming out of this could be used as a production of the thermoset resins, which we call it the phenol formaldehyde and PU resins. And these are the biomaterials which are being produced as a, adopting the biorefinery approach on the lignocellulosic biomass. Now, what could be the main production routes for the production of these biomaterials from the biomass? One of the important steps for the biorefining is the pre-treatment step, basically, which make it amenable for the saccharification, separation of the cellulose and other component. Pre-treatment, after the pre-treatment, the polysaccharide coming out in the form of cellulose and hemicellulose could be converted into the bio-based plastics cellulose, which we call the cellulose acetate. That is the route one, where the polysaccharide through the chemical route could be converted, the cellulose could be converted into cellulose acetate, which is a biodegradable polymer. And the second route could be the cellulose could be converted into the fermentable sugars, and through the chemical and the microbiological route, through the fermentation route, it could be converted into the bioplastics, that is polyhydroxyalkanoates, and also the polylactic acid through the fermentation route, wherein it could be converted into the bioplastics in the form of PLA. And the other third component is also a biopolymer, which could be used as a source of biocomposites, for the formation of PF resins and PUR, polyurethane resins. These are all the biodegradable material which could be produced adopting a biorefinery approach through the biomass, actually, lignocellulosic biomass. So this quickly I'll just give which is a process for the production of polylactic acid. Here we are using the sugarcane bagasse, which is again a lignocellulosic biomass. Pre-treatment followed by wherein the cellulose could be alpha cellulose could be converted into the cellobiose glucose and the lactic acid. This is the pure lactic acid which could be after polymerization could be converted into polylactic acid. And second route is the production of the PHA from the lignocellulosic biomass, wherein the cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin could be fractionated, and this hexose, the sugar could be converted through this biomass, through the pre-treatment, chemical treatment, hydrolysis. I think this is a process which has already been standardized. A lot of laboratories have been working on this, and we through the fermentation route, we could convert this into the polyhydroxy alkonates, which is a bioplastic, one of the bioplastic produced from the biomass. So I think if we talk about some of the widespread application of the bioplastic, what kind of bioplastic can be produced from the different the lignocellulosic biomass? PHA, PHB could be, these are the different lignocellulosic biomass. These are the microorganisms which are being used already in application for production of PLA, PHB, and other kind of various kind of the bioplastics. And if you look at the applications of the PHA and the bioplastics, one of the common application is the packaging for the bottles, laminate foils, food packaging, food and the disposable aprons, and the medical pharma, and these are the various application routes where the bioplastics are being used globally. So if you look at what are the global facilities available for the production of bioplastic? What is the status of bioplastic production? I think as rightly shared by one of the predecessors, around 6 million tons of bioplastics is being produced globally, which is 30% of the total plastic being consumed globally. And PLA has some of the plants are being in operation, like the PLA polyhydroxylactones, PHA in China. I think these are the global status of the production of bioplastics, which is quite not very significant the thermoset plastic resin consumed globally. If you look at what are the opportunities for the bioplastics in the packaging industry, I think food is one of the major sector, and having a lot of consumption for the biodegradable packaging, growing at a rate of almost 14 to 15%. And it almost food packaging. If you look at the packaging industry, it accounts almost more than 48% of the total packaging goes to the food packaging industry, and these are the highly unexplored as a value addition to the food in India is hardly 7%. So there is a lot of potential for the market to grow for the biodegradable packaging. What are the major application and challenges for the consumption of the biodegradable plastics? It is mainly used for the wrapping, protecting of certain food items like burgers. These are the ready to use. But the challenge over here is to develop those barrier properties, because we are if there is a migration of the contents into the food, so which is not acceptable. So we have to develop those properties to make it hydrophobic and oleophobic, oil resistant and water resistant. So which could be achieved by using the cellulose to convert it to nanocellulose. I think that is one of the major efforts which is being done nowadays by the pulp and paper industry, how to develop these barrier coatings using the lignocellulosic biomass so that the barrier properties could be developed, and instead of bioplastics, which is still a challenge to bring it to a level, could be even the paper and paper board could be one of the alternative to be used, and which is now proven technology from the lignocellulosic biomass. And conventionally nowadays, the polymaterials is being used to develop those barrier properties on the paper and boards, which is the poly material P actually, which is not acceptable and creating a lot of hazards in the paper industry. Nowadays, if you look, a lot of plastic is generated as a waste by the paper industry. Paper industry almost is generating, if you look, 3% of the total production of the paper is the plastic waste, which is again creating a lot of issues with the paper industry. Almost out of the 20 million tons, if you look, paper industry is generating almost 3 to 4 million tons of plastic every year, which is again becoming a challenge. So the paper industry is looking for an alternative to develop those barrier coatings so that the biodegradable coating could be utilized as a coating material on the paper and board, which could be an alternate option for the packaging of the materials. Now, one of the material which is developed, that is PLA coating from the biodegradable polymer, could be one of the option from the lignocellulosic biomass to develop these barrier properties. So hybrid technology, I would rather advocate the hybrid of the paper and paper board and the bioplastic could be one of the option to overcome the challenge and the growing demand for the packaging industry. And as we all know, the food industries, the ready-to-cook food is growing, and a lot of demand would be there in the years to come. Already, I think these are some of the examples for the biodegradable plastic, which is the hybrid, the technology developed. Here the coating material is developed through the additives, developed from the nanocellulose, which is a part of which is derived from the renewable resources. So these are some of the examples wherein the hybrid paper board along with the biodegradable packaging being used as a coating material has already been placed for the replacement of the in the form of these cups and the other disposable items. Similarly, now lot of efforts the companies have been able to develop the paper and board based the material to be used as a wrappers, which is having a coating on the material developed from the bio-based materials like the chocolates, even in the bottles. Even the Coca-Cola is also replacing the plastic wrap with the new paper board technology. Paper means and the coated with the bioplastic material, so that the demand for the bioplastic could also be rationalized. Instead of using 100% virgin bioplastic, the option could be the coating of this bioplastic and use as the coating material on the paper and board to develop those barrier properties so that it is considered as biodegradable material for the packaging industry. So before I conclude, I think let me just conclude like bioplastic production from the lignocellulosic biomass involves the processes such as I discussed, the pre-treatment, which is crucial for the biorefinery, saccharification, detoxification, fermentation, conversion, separation, and purification of the monomeric, the sugars to convert into the polymeric material. And nowadays, ionic liquids have been emerged as one of the wonderful, the option for the fractionation of these biomass, the monosugars, which could improve upon the techno-economic feasibility, because using this ionic liquid could improve upon the yield of the bioplastic generated from the lignocellulosic biomass. And depending on the chemical structure of the thermoplastics can either be durable bio-PE and compostable and biodegradable PHA. If you look at the PE, one of the common root P, the lignocellulosic biomass could also be one of the very good resource for the production of the ethylene out of the bioethanol produced from the lignocellulosic biomass. Because 30% of the plastic consumed globally is from the PE. So it means the lignocellulosic biomass could also be one of the resource for the replacement of the petro-based, the non-renewable fossil-based, the fuel for the production of PE. And because after the formation of PE from the ethanol, the remaining route will be same for the production of polyethylene. And efforts have to be made to implement the specific, the collecting recycling stream to fully exploit the dedicated compostable and biodegradable plastics. I think this is one of the major challenge as on date, how we could, have a separate collection and the recycling stream for recycling the compostable and biodegradable plastic. And the drop-in such as the bio-PE could be advantages for durable application. So bio-PE can be recycled in the conventional PE recycle stream. So, the lignocellulosic biomass could be one of the option to produce the ethylene and for the production of PE, which could call it the bio-PE, and the remaining this recycling for the bio-PE could be the conventional PE recycling stream. And lignin also offers various opportunities to bio-enrich the thermoset resins. I think lignin, which is one of the component of the lignocellulosic biomass, could also be converted into the bioplastics, the thermoset resins, PF and PUR, which could improve upon the techno-economic feasibility of the bioplastic production from the lignocellulosic biomass. And the production of the bioplastic from the LCB is presently demanding and costly. Further advances are needed, to break through, are needed to make it necessary, to make it cost effective and requiring the considerable consideration of the three main aspects. That is the development of the innovative and economically viable technology, definition of the political and environmental drivers for the production and use of bioplastics, and also the development of a business model based on sustainable and profitable process. So with this, words, I like to thank you once again for the patient listening. Thank you very much. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Shri Rakesh Jainji. Your speech and your slides have been extremely informative. We have come to know a lot of detail and hope in future. And it is really heartening to know that all these alternatives are available for a better packaging, which should be healthier and for the planet as well as for we as human beings for consumption. Like it was mentioned in one of your slides that Nestle in Japan has developed a new kind of packaging for its chocolate and everything. Thank you very much for your nice presentation. I will now introduce Professor Rajeshwarji. He is currently designated as a Chief Scientist and Head Food Packaging Technology and Technology Transfer and Business Development in CSIR, Central Food Technological Research Institute. A leader in his domain of food science and packaging technology, he has created unique solutions for the food and packaging industry. Professor Rajeshwar has, through a streamlined approach of invention, devised over 24 technologies. His expertise in the subject can be gauged through the 37 plus publications he has as papers and posters, 4 patents, and not to mention the 18 chapters he has authored within reputed books meant for the food packaging and technology industry. I will now request Professor Rajeshwar to kindly unmute and speak.
Thank you, Dr. Uma, for a nice introduction, and thanks Anoopji for giving me this opportunity. Can I share my screen? Can you see?
Yes, we can see. Yes.
Okay. Is it full screen?
No, it is not full screen, but it is highly visible. Oh, okay. It is full screen. Yes.
Okay. It is a very off topic, and being the last speaker is always advantage because you need to speak less. But being a researcher, we have habit of speaking more, and I give you the liberty to stop me whenever you feel that I'm exceeding the time. Okay, so coming back, I'm not going to go in details of the technological fronts, but I want to just touch upon some of the areas of in terms of the bioplastic, biodegradable plastic, and compostable plastic, because there are a lot of misinformation, or not in misinformation, but there is some thing which we feel that we need to little spend some time. Now I go back to my childhood when I was young, and then plastic was a novelty. Getting even plastic bag, it's a big thing. But today you want to get rid of plastic. Yes, plastic per se is not a bad material, it's a good material, but handled by not so good civilians. So that is where we stand there. And if we should have taken the precaution 40 years back, that when you have plastic in your hand, it can be in terms of the packaging or any other use, and if you are able to utilize, see, waste creator is its responsibility to see that the waste is properly disposed in a proper manner. That generally doesn't happen. I also feel that in the whole audience, more than 50%, majority, I feel at least majority, 50% of them in our own family also, we generally don't do that. So what we feel that our neighbor should do that, and I should not do that. I'm just mixing a small food with one plastic, and it doesn't make much difference, but that makes a hell lot of difference in the whole ecosystem. So this culture has to change. Now, if you bring out the new plastic, a new molecule or new material, and you don't have the ecosystem to support that, that generally may not take to the very long, maybe higher level. Now, when I'm talking of the bioplastic, which is often used loosely for biodegradability, when you're talking of, are all bioplastics indeed biodegradable? Not at all, not all of them. Maybe few of them are there, maybe 50% of them are biodegradable. Now, what do you mean by bioplastic? Now, when you're talking of bioplastic, it should meet one of these two criteria or both the criteria. What is that? One is it should be polymer is a bio-based and it is biodegradable. Even if it is bio-based, if you're adding some, either entirely or partially also, if you're adding as a biomass, it becomes a bioplastic. So that is where the catch is. So that is where the problem comes in. Now, coming back to the next level, degradability. This is another bigger challenge when you're talking of what is degradable and what is a compostable. Now, in degradability definition, if you go to European Union or even US FDA or even Indian standard, the breaking down of the natural substances to carbon dioxide, water, and biomass. But it is not due to microorganism, but it is not 100%. So what happens, as Dr. Sangeeta was telling, that it breaks down 90%, 92%, 95%. What is left out? Left out are the microplastics. And sometimes the microplastics can be more dangerous than the plastic per se. So hence, you need to be very careful when you're defining the things. When you're talking of the compostable plastics, yes, it has to yield carbon dioxide, water, and organic compound, and it should not leave any visible, disintegrable, or toxic residue. This is very, very important. Now, these are things which you need to look at it. Now, if you look at just to brief, bioplastic, yes, requires specific condition to decompose. Maybe all the bioplastics are not degradable, and it may leave the residues, even if they are degradable. Biodegradable, they're not necessarily from the biomaterials. They can be from the synthetic materials or even fossil fuels, but they can be biodegradable or they can be compostable also. So that is where you need to look at it. But compostable materials, all of them, they don't leave any residues, and all the compostable materials are invariably biodegradable materials. That is very, very important. Now, when you look at this whole matrix, I think Dr. Jain very categorically stated all these materials. And then if you classify them into the bio-based and biodegradable one, so most commonly used worldwide is PLA, and most of PLA, yes, it is bio-based, biodegradable, but is it compostable? I don't know. So maybe PHA, yes, of course, it is bio-based, biodegradable, and compostable, but you need to look at it. Now, one is when you're talking of bio-based, biodegradable, and compostable. This is where you need to look at, just not talking only biodegradability. Now, when you look at the whole matrix of fossil fuel versus bio-based, so if you see in this matrix, you will have a conventional plastics in this major chunk, and then you have bio-based plastics. These are mimic of the plastics and having exactly same properties as this material, little variation. And here you have bioplastic, which are biodegradable, but they are not bio-based. And here you have bio-based biodegradable plastics. So if you look at the global production capacity, that's what I was telling you. Here, if you look at this graph, 2019 to 2020, so this graph, it will show you that this is bio-based, non-biodegradable, and this is biodegradable. So more or less 50-50. So all the bioplastics are not necessarily biodegradable. So maybe more than 40 to 50% of them are non-biodegradable. So the trend is continuing, and then there is an inclination towards more biodegradable aspect of it than the non-biodegradable part from the bio-based plastics. Now, this is what I was telling is a drop-in plastic. That means it is a biosimilar copy of the fossil fuel based plastics. They are more or less having the same. That is, you call it is name is given bioethylene, ethylene or biopolyethylene or biopolypropylene, all that sort of things. Now, what is advantage of this? So advantage, as today's chief guest was telling, the energy consumption in the production in the petroleum base is high, and here bioplastic it is less. If you look at the raw material, here is a petroleum base which is non-renewable, and this is bio-based, biomass. Then if you carbon footprint, it is very high, and it is less than 62% of this. And physical properties, of course, they may be little compromised, but they are quite stable. And price, of course, it is very low here, and it is high because of economy of scale and maybe the technological non-advancement in this particular area. So I think advantages, a lot of people have talked about the advantages, and I'm sure all of you may be aware of this. And I just wanted to give, not to discourage or to be cautious about the disadvantages also. What are disadvantages? Of course, high production cost and low performance than the common plastic. Why plastic is very, very popular? It will give you the high performance at the lowest cost. So hence it has become so popular in a very short span of time. So this doesn't happen with the bioplastic. Also, lack of processability, as there is no good know-how, as the market is so small. Once it increases, then maybe there will be possibilities that you may have that sort of a technology put in place. Also, there is a possibility of competition with biofuel. But if you look at the ethylene, this basically you are taking it for biofuel, and then you are making the plastic out of it. So there are chances that you are competing with the biofuel, and then also you are taking some of the starch-based and protein-based products. So there are chances that you are competing with the food industry. And also, very importantly, these points are very, very important. Risk of following the recycling stream with biodegradable plastic. Today, there is no proper labeling. Just a minute. Sorry. So if there is no proper labeling, so biodegradable and non-biodegradable may get mixed together, and there will be a problem. Even for the regular recycling, there will be problem. And also, there is a landfilling biodegradable plastic resulting in greenhouse gas emission. This is big because we don't have a system, industrial compost system in place. So hence, these are some of the challenges we need to look at it. Then we don't have a dedicated composting and recycling infrastructure. And also there is uncertainty regarding the biodegradability of different open environment. In India, we have temperature and humidity ranging from very, very low temperature to very high temperature, high humidity to low humidity, and hence there are some challenges which you need to look at it carefully. Now, when you are talking of bio-based biodegradable polymers, basically as synthetic polymers, we have PLA type of materials, and microbial base, where Dr. Jain has covered extensively, and natural biopolymers, where you can have polysaccharides or even protein-based materials. Quite very sporadic research is going on in India, and I request agencies like DST or DBT to collate them together. And I'm seeing that there is a lot of duplication of same type of work. Universities, colleges, and institutes, they do a similar sort of work, and then unnecessary waste of time, and we don't take to the next level. So as she was telling, that we should have a sort of a center of excellence, and all the research should be linked with that sort of a system, so that we will be able to save the national resources. Now, coming back to the production, it can be, as I told, polymerization of the bio-based monomers, or modification of natural polymers, or extraction. So this can be basically, as Dr. Jain said, agro-based materials, lignin and all that sort of materials can be extensively used. And these are some of these polymers, and these are used. Why I'm just highlighting this is basically, as I was telling, it may compete with the food or biofuel. Is a starch, carbohydrate, plant oil or castor oil, or it can be bioethanol, starch, all that sort of materials are really required. And there are plenty available in India. It is not really a challenge. And these are some of the commercial available bioplastics already there in the market. That is cellulose-based materials, or it can be PLA-based, so plenty. PLA, PHA, and PHB-based products are quite in numbers. Then you can have, now coming back to, there are different types of bioplastic based on the degradation. So degradation can be by oxygen, oxo biodegradation. that conventionally plastics, the additives to break down it faster. Then it can be by photobiodegradation, by UV light. Then you can break down, or it can be hydrobiodegradation. So based on this is basically by hydrolysis. So you need to define when you are talking of material which are going to go into the water bodies, you need to accordingly address the bioplastic requirement. As you know, if you are looking at the biodegradation, it is metabolite into water, carbon dioxide, and biomass, which will help with the help of microorganisms. Now, this is very interesting. In India, even normal plastics are not labeled. Globally, now there is a challenge in the compost. Now, industrial compost is a big challenge. We don't get that sort of an environment naturally. And then we don't have any facilities in India. So alternatively, in some of the European countries, what they have done is, there are two types of composting. One is the industrial composting. So label is different, like Austria and then I think France and Germany. They have given two different labels onto the packaging material itself, so that if the person, he or she, can put these the garbage or waste into their own compost bins in the house itself, so that it doesn't take. So that sort of a step. But that is, you see, there the standards, there is no global standard, but each, I think more than 6-7 countries, they have their own standards, and they are quite synchronized. So these standards are quite good. Whether that can be taken to India, particularly the home composting. Industrial composting in India is a big challenge. It is only we can talk, because if the amount of waste generated, and you don't have that sort of facilities to get the temperature of 50 plus, and then it becomes a challenge. So that is where you need to look at the labeling part. And then doing another challenge here is the testing facilities. Very few industry, few institutes. One of my institute is one of the institute who can do aerobic as well as anaerobic biodegradation and composting test also. And that is generally, it is a long process of 3 to 6 months. You need to do that testing. Now, when you are talking of the conditioning of biodegradation, to get the degradation, you need to have a 50-degree temperature, specific microbiological culture should be there. Then you should have a specific moisture, and then either aerobic or anaerobic. So accordingly, the degradation can be defined. So it can take 3 to 6 months for generally for degradation. Yes. Can it degrade on the open environment? May not be. But then if you have 50 to 60-degree temperature, then it may take. If it is open, it may degrade. It may take longer time, or it may not degrade. Can it form the microplastics? Yes, it may form the microplastic also, if it is not properly. If it is not compostable, if it is biodegradable, it may form the microplastic. So that is where you need to look at it. As you know, a lot of bioplastics are already used globally. All the walk of life, shopping, sports, toys, you talk of beddings or coffee tables, all these places, you will see this. I just run through some of them just to, yeah, this is one garden one. So 3D printing is now, PLA is very, very commonly used, which has a good scope. As Dr. Sangeeta was telling, 3 R's, maybe 6 R's: replace, recycle, reuse, reduce, refuse, and rethink. So these are 6 R's which you need to look at it. Point to remember, very importantly, bioplastic waste should not be mixed with the plastic waste. Proper labeling identification of bioplastic is must, otherwise it will create more problem than the regular system. Should not be littered around. Separate recycling stream has to be set. Setting up the composter for composting bioplastic is important. Commercially available, best solution globally, what we have, my institute has developed is a leaf cup making machine. this in 1993, the postal stamp was released, and this when people were not talking about the biodegradable or compostable, and this material, if something can be done to take to the next level, can a good material. We have some of these materials available. EcoWare, then we have 60 bags, TIPA, composite materials. This is biomaterial. Super 7, World Centric. This has a lot of cutleries and all that sort of a product. So these are some of the standards. Most of the standards, if you look at it, revolves around the European Union standard of 13432 for composting and biodegradation. Then coming back to the interesting last concluding 2 slides. An increased use of biodegradable plastic, reorganization in the recycling framework will be required, as well as informing consumers on the correct way to dispose of such products. Otherwise, what is happening to the plastic? On bioplastic, biodegradable plastic, it will not take it will take much shorter time than to mess up the whole planet once again. The end of shelf life management of bio-based product by recycling, which reduces the landfill. Bioplastics are suitable for reuse, mechanical recycling, organic recycling, and energy recovery. Now, you need to look at the bioplastic life cycle includes, you need to look at the life cycle assessment by ISO 14040 or any other standards. Look at these life cycle analysis and accordingly take the call. Now to conclude, it can be expected that the bioplastic industry will receive a lot of promotion incentives from the government or different bodies to grow, develop new technologies and materials, and scale it up for the production to the greater volumes. Once the volumes are produced, then the issues of how you need to assess once again in terms of the safety, in terms of its environmental acceptability that comes. Because if you look at the whole plastic basket, bioplastic is a very, very small, minute percentage where it does really talks more than the making really economic sense. So once it grows to that volume, then you need to look at how it is going to impact the environment, how it's going to impact the society or industry. That is where you need to look at it. And that the things to keep in mind that moving forward is that most of the issues lies in your throwaway mentality. What do? You take something, if your wet material, wet waste, you just put it in the plastic, wrap it and put it there. That is where the whole problem starts. If you can have to change, get away from the throwaway mentality, most of the problems can be addressed. Replacing one plastic with another, whether it is biodegradable or compostable, without replacing the mentality, it has no solution. So my request to organizers is, please help the society and the government bodies to understand that parallelly, of course, you need to get away from single-use plastic, because that is where it's creating havoc to the whole world and the planet. Need to replace, but going from one problem and getting to the another bigger problem, can be bigger or maybe the same problem, is not a solution. So please be prepared from the day one to address this problem. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Anoopji and Gauriji, for giving this opportunity, and all the participants for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shri Rajeshwarji. for this enriching presentation. Many aspects need to be looked into. Challenges are really there in terms of segregation, disposal, and your ideas regarding centers for excellence is really very useful. And streamlining the research activities is also very important. So we have to really carry this forward. Thank you very much for your enriching presentation. Now I will call upon Shri Anup Kumar Srivastava, for founder director of CAP, to sum up and deliver a vote of thanks.
Thank you all very much. Thank you all very much. I want to pick up from what Rajeshwar ji just said, that the biggest problem lies in our mentality. And if somebody asks which is the best invention in the last century, if somebody asks, then I say plastic. But which is the worst invention? The worst invention I want to know actually, and I want to really let out on him as to who invented the single-use items, who invented the disposable items. We should not talk about disposable items. We should use each matter, each material given to us by Mother Nature as a resource and not as a throwaway item. We use once and we throw it away. This mentality has to go, and very correctly said that one plastic can replace another plastic is not a solution. Solution lies, as also earlier said by other speakers like Dr. Sangeeta Kasture and others, is the behavioral change that we have to bring about. We have to create awareness and bring about behavioral change among us so that we give up this culture and we start using plastic more wisely. Problem is not in the plastic, problem is in the way we use it. We are actually presently misusing it, overusing it, abusing it. But on the other hand, we have to use it wisely. And that is where those 6 R's mentioned by one of the speakers comes into play. These 6 R's that have been mentioned are actually the components of the wise use of plastic. Anyway, a lot has been said about bioplastic. All the presentations were very, very cogent, very clear, very informative, very educative, and very importantly, the distinction between bioplastic, biodegradable plastic, and compostable plastic has been brought out. Actually, frankly speaking, I also used to get confused between these items, and I did not find ready material which could throw light on this. But today I have become much wiser. I know what is bioplastic, what is biodegradable plastic, and what is compostable plastic. And I am sure that all of us who are present today, they have learned a great deal from it. I would now propose my formal vote of thanks. I would first like to thank Mr. Atul Bagai, who had to leave because he had other engagements. He had told me earlier, and he, being the UN, being the head of the UNEP India office, is of course a very busy person, and I am really grateful to him that he made it a point to attend and say a few encouraging words, which were very, very important. And he brought out very important point about the standardization and labeling of the bioplastics, which is absent as of now and which has to come in a big way. Then I would like to convey my sincere thanks to Dr. Sangeeta Kasture, who has made a very educative presentation and also told us as to what all is being done, which are the areas where more studies and more research are required to develop the bioplastics so that they become scalable and commercially viable. I would also like to convey my profuse thanks to Dr. Rakesh Jain, who was who made a lucid and very clear presentation on how the plastics are produced from the biomass, and what are the various types of bioplastics, and what are their applications, what are their utilities. And we have learned a great deal. Finally, I would like to thank Professor Rajeshwar, who made a very clear presentation on and made distinction between bioplastic, biodegradable plastics. And we have learned a great deal, and the way forward that he has shown to us is very important. And I can assure you today's deliberations will not be wasted. This has been recorded. This has also been live streamed on Facebook so that more and more people can watch it. It will be also uploaded on the YouTube, but more importantly, as suggested by Mr. Atul Bhagai in the beginning, we will prepare a nice report on this. And we will share with all the stakeholders, and more importantly with the government, central government in the Ministry of Environment and Environment, Forest and Climate Change, who being the nodal ministry to dealing with the plastic pollution, will be able to utilize it for developing suitable policy framework. And for that, I will request all the speakers who spoke today to kindly email their presentations all in the to me to my email address, which is known to them because we have been corresponding with them. I will be very grateful if they email the presentation to me. So it will be very, it will facilitate in preparing a nice report about this webinar. So with these words, I would declare it closed, but I would like to request the participants who are willing to stay back with a small evaluation form, which they will fill up in a minute or two, which will be very handy for us for our future guidance. And those who don't want to take part in it, of course, they are free to leave the webinar, but I will request maximum participation in this. I will now make available the Didi, how to bring that.
Thank you, Anup Srivastava ji. Thank you so much. I would take leave now. So
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sangeeta ji.
thank you. And it was very
Thank you so
nice
much.
to hear from all panelists. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, it was really very enriching and informative webinar. Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much for
sparing the
sparing the
time.
time.
मैम अनूप सर का नंबर मिलेगा क्या प्लीज?
I will convey it through the email. Yeah. Who is asking that?
MSP Polymers पटना बिहार से बोल रहा हूँ सर.
Acha, you can note down my phone number is also given on the website of CAB, but you can note down 99 588 069
जी
56. I am also typing it out in the chat box so that anyone who desires it can note down clearly without any mistake. I have just typed out it in the chat box. Didi, how to bring the poll on? I had created one.
ओके थैंक यू सर.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anup ji, thank you very much. I'll take leave of you. Sir.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I think there is
Thank you very much.
There is a problem that I am not able to bring the poll that I had created on the screen. So I will thank all of you for patient listening and for being present. I know who all have participated. I will send the evaluation form to them by email. And I'll request them to devote a minute or two to fill up that form and send it back to me by email. Thank you all very much. We will end the meeting now.